Okay, I've gone over all the petals again. Y'all are probably going to get tired of me saying this, but you could stop now. You could stop, start on the center, do the stem and the leaf, say it's done. It's a pretty painting. But I can't stop, not yet. We really want, when before teaching in class, you know, sometimes we don't want all those streaks. But in this case, it's a flower, it's a bloom, it's petals. We want streaks. So what I'm going to do now, besides highlight, we're going to apply some streaks, okay, in a minute. And then I'm also in the process of highlighting the edges that overlap the petals. So this one overlaps that one. I'm going to make sure I highlight that spot there with the light yellow. What you're doing basically is building a sunflower. You're putting layers on top of layers on top of layers. And again, it's your choice. You can stop and move on with another part of this flower, or you can just keep implementing, you know, little changes here and there until you're happy with it. All right, so for now, we want streaks. I'm going back into the yellow white. Let me change that a little bit. We're gonna go into, yeah. We're gonna go into some of the straight yellow. I'm gonna have to turn this so I can get it at a right angle. But because this one overlaps that, I want that highlight to be there. Plus I want the streaking. So to show you, we just start at the top and it's just strokes. That's all it is. It's not filling in completely. I hope you can see that. All it is stroking the petal towards the center. So we're going to do this one right here. Now I have to be mindful that this is a shadow, so this petal is underneath here. I'm going to grab a little bit of the straight yellow, a little bit on my brush, starting at the top, and then I'm just going to streak. Not full coverage. And if the paint, like right now my paint's starting to dry, it's not moving very well. I'm going to rinse my brush, get my brush slightly damp, and then I'm going to stroke that down. Using the straight yellow, you're not going to lose that shadow. Even if I go completely over it, you're still going to be able to see it. But all I'm doing now at this point is pulling in that stronger yellow color, and you're starting to see streaks. Streaks of the brown, a tad, bit of the orange, and then now the yellow. I'm gonna take a minute and get my yellow a little bit loose. This is what I was talking about earlier. When your paint is not flowing, stop for a moment, stir in a little bit of water so you have that flow. All these different things that I tell you now, you may not get it completely right now, but I promise you, you will. Back in the day when I was teaching class at an art mall, I started saying these different terms and saying these different things. And I had one particular young lady that she would be like, I really don't get what you're saying. And I said, but you will. You will. Keep practicing. And anyway, so that's what I'm telling you. You will get what I'm talking about if you just keep practicing. All right, grabbing some more of that, just the straight yellow. I'm going to finish going around and doing strokes. If I've got enough on there, I think I do. What I do is I get at the very top fill it in a little bit, and then just go down. It doesn't completely cover anything. It just adds, if you can tell the difference between the colors. You start seeing the yellow make it pop. So again, filling up at the top a little bit. Now I'm just gonna streak it down. I'm being mindful of the edges. In other words, if it's overlapping like this one, I can go back with a little bit stronger yellow right there. So I want to make this petal stand forward, and by bringing that highlight on there, or more yellow, it is causing this petal to go back. So that shadow area is more believable. All right, grabbing some more yellow. Guess I need to make sure I'm filming right. I've heard so many people that I follow on gardening where they do this long drawn out session and they never had it going. It's going. Good. I can hear Lisa now. She's cracking up laughing at me. That's okay. Laugh away, girl, laugh away. Hopefully you're having fun working on these projects. All right, that right there is a little heavy. Rinse my brush off and dry it, this area here. So by rinsing my brush off, it's damp. And all I'm gonna do is break that up just a little bit. Still see it, it's still kind of streaky, and that's what we want. Just makes the painting a little bit more interesting. Again, just not full coverage. Going around the petal, filling up the top a little bit, but then just going long strokes to make it streak. Same thing here. Long strokes. You should be able to start seeing the difference between where I put straight yellow and we were working with the light yellow. Big difference in color. Grabbing the regular yellow again, filling up at the petal, bottom of the petal, and then just streaking down. That's all you're doing is adding this beautiful yellow on top. Oh, and then when you make a mistake like that, rinse your brush, and if you hurry, you can wipe that right. And notice I wiped it down toward the petal, not like towards me. Then that would have made a bigger mess in the background, which wouldn't have been a big deal. We would have fixed it. But that's the way you can do it. That also brings up, when you get a ridge, let me show you. Let's say I have a ridge. Let's see if I can get one on there. It might be hard for y'all to see with it being yellow. Having a ridge, there, all you have to do, you either catch it with your paintbrush, slowly pull it back in, try not to make that petal any bigger than it is, or you just take your finger, wipe the ridge towards the petal. That paint will move directly into there and you have no more ridge. Hopefully that makes some sense to you. I think I need a cup of coffee. All right, just streaking down. Jump over here on this one, add a little bit of streaks. Grabbing the straight yellow, filling up the top of this petal, or end of this petal, sorry, and then just streaking down. It's just strokes going down, that's all, guys. You can pretty much tell when you get happy with it. It's like, okay, that's enough. We're almost done here. We're going to do an opposite streak with the brown. I think I've already done this one. Yep, there's that weird, funky petal one that I did. Yeah. Not everything's perfect in nature, right? Okay. We want to use that light brown and water it down. You can see it's gotten very sticky and drying out. But if we'll water that down, we're going to add a few streaks of this brown going up the petal. It can be streaks, it could be a fold of the petal, a crease of the petal. Okay, it's nice and wet. Because we're wetting it down because we don't really want it to be a strong color. All right, so I'm gonna get a little bit, using again my 5 round brush. I'm just getting a little bit of paint. Not much paint at all on this brush. And I'm just gonna do quick lines. Now you could use the skinny brush to do that. That's totally up to you. Liner brush. But I find using, that's why, side note, one, that's why you don't keep these nice brushes just hanging out in your cups. Let's say you're in a big hurry, you gotta go, you can't paint anymore. Take the moment and wash these really good brushes and lightly dry them on a paper towel and then lay them flat. If you leave it in the cup, you're gonna lose this tip. This tip is what really comes in handy, what's working on this right now. All right, grab a little bit of the light brown that's been watered down, and we're gonna do streak or stroke, however you want to term it. I'm doing 2, one long, one small. Again, they don't all have to be the same size. Turning the palette or the project. Yeah, I'm not happy with that one. That's okay. Let's do just 1 there, 2 there, 1 there. Grabbing a little bit more of that light brown watered down. And let me show you, I've been doing it off camera. So I'm grabbing a little bit of that light brown, right? And then, because I don't want a whole lot on my brush, I just wipe it off first and then go and do that streak. So again, a little bit of light brown, wipe it off first. Got some yellow on there. A little bit of light brown, wipe it off. This is that time when I've warned y'all about having water. And sure enough, I've got too much water on there. Grabbing the light brown, wipe it off. Just holding at an angle. Some streaks do the little short one, some do a long one. A little curve to it will work out nicely too. Grabbing a little bit of that light brown paint that's been watered down. And doing just one streak on that one. Okay. Now you can see it's coming a little bit more alive. I'm going to take the white paint I have on here that I have need to water down. Is it hot in Texas? Yes. Everything's drying. Well, I have fans going everywhere, which is a big no-no, but there'd be no way I could sit here without fans going. Water down that white. We want to make it a loose gravy. I feel for the folks that's never cooked. I'm sorry, I'll come up with another term. There we go. White, watered down white. We're just doing the same thing as far as filling your brush and wiping some off. What we're going to do next is highlight a little bit more the edges that are overlapping petals. Like this edge is overlapping that petal. I'm going to come in here and just do a little bit of white. Just a little bit of white. Plus it's watered down, that really helps. That one's really not overlapping, but we're going to add white to it anyway. If you find you get a little too much on there, let's say I did this, got too much, rinse your brush, dry it off, and just, it'll end up pulling it off a little bit. So touch your brush in the white watered down paint, wipe it off a little bit on your palette. We're going to go ahead and add a little white to this one. A little white to this one. And we're just going up there a little bit because this one actually is overlapping. I'll turn this upside down. This one here is overlapping that one. So we're going to add a little white there. A little white on that one, it's overlapping. On that one, it's overlapping. Let's add a little bit of white to this one. Need a little bit of something on this one as well. It's not actually overlapping, it's underneath. See, I got a little too much. I'm wiping my brush off, and then I'm just going to stroke that down a little bit. Adding a little bit of white to this one as well. All you're doing is giving it a little highlight. Okay. This is a good time to add a little bit more orange to it. You want to make sure your orange is watered down. Same theory with the oranges, as well as, you know, the white, the light brown, is we're just barely going to use a little bit of this to add more tint to your flower. You just want to make sure it's really wet. Okay. Grab a little bit of that orange, wipe it off on your palette. Again, grab a little bit of that orange, Wipe it off on your palette. These are streaks coming up from the brown. One or two streaks is enough. Grab a little bit of the orange, wipe it off on the palette. Just adding a little bit more tint color to the flower. Because we don't need that much, I don't have to keep refilling my brush. Just adding a little bit more pop to this. All right, this is close to getting to the part where we're going to do the center. So I will pause for a moment, go get me a cup of coffee, and be back. All right, I have that good cup of coffee in hand. Cheers. Yum. All right, back to those brown streaks. Let's say you've got one on there that's a little too fat, you don't care for it, it's bothering you. Grab a tad bit of that yellow white, that yellow that we have white mixed into. Let's say I want that one to tone down a little bit. So I'll just do a little streak right next to it. Rinse my brush, dry it off, and just barely stroke that area. You see it tones it down. That one too. A little bit of white, yellow. Wipe my brush off a little bit. I don't need much paint. And we'll go right where it overlaps that streak a little. Rinse my brush, wipe it off, no water, and just barely stroke that out. Yeah, I'm not caring for that one too well either. So a little bit of the yellow white, wipe my brush off, we just need a little bit of paint. And I'm gonna go right where it overlaps that brown streak just a little. Rinse my brush, wipe it off, and then just barely tap that. All right, now we're gonna add a little bit more tint, of course. Taking that turquoise color that we used for the background, if you use something different that was a contrast like this between the turquoise and the brown and yellow. Now, like I've said in a previous video, it really comes in handy that these colors that you used in the background show up in your subject. It just makes everything complement each other. So the yellow and the brown that was used in the background and the white, we've used all those colors except for the turquoise. So we're going to create a little bit of a tint. I'm watering this turquoise down. Again, we don't need it real thick at all. This is a good time actually, if you have glaze on hand, to mix some glaze with your paint. It's glaze part It's 1-to-1. Glaze, paint, and a little bit of water. This is the glaze. This is the glaze that I use. And this is the slow dry retarder. I think I've talked about this before, but the slow dry retarder, it's an oily substance. It's a paint medium, and it's an oily substance. And for a nickel size paint on your palette, you would only need about 1 drop, maybe 2, and a little bit of water. Stir it all together. This will keep the drying time open a little bit more for your acrylic paints. It doesn't last real long either, but it does help some. I've used this when I've done large paintings that are full of blending small items like a cluster of grapes. I will use this retarder paint. So it will keep my paint wet or moist on my palette, and then when I'm blending, my blending time is still open a little bit, where it makes it a little longer amount of time to blend. The glaze is Jo Sonja, and the glaze, what it does for you, if you mix, it's 1-on-1, paint versus glaze and a little bit of water stirred well. What this does is it allows you to have that color, that tint, to put on top of whatever you've painted. You won't lose your base coat. You won't lose what you've already painted when you put this on top mixed with paint. It just enhances it. It just causes that painting to become even more in depth, if that makes sense. You have to try it. I've got a little bit of glaze that I put in this turquoise already, but if you don't have glaze right now, don't worry about that. Just water down your turquoise to a consistency of Jello, and you can do the same thing I'm doing right now. All right, just grabbing a little bit and wiping it off, and I'm just going to throw a little bit of this turquoise on this petal. Rinse my brush, wipe it off, and just move it around just a tad. I don't want to lose that, but at the same time, I don't need a whole lot on there. Just a little bit of tint. We'll do that on a few of these. No rhyme or reason really where I put it, to be honest. You just put a little bit on that petal, rinse your brush, and just kind of stroke it around a little bit till you're happy with it. Just gives you a little extra something. Plus it picks up that background too. All right, we're gonna skip some of those. Move down here, do this one. Rinse my brush, wipe it off. Got a little much right there, so rinse my brush, wipe it off. Rinse my brush. You're gonna hear this in your dreams. Rinse my brush, wipe it off. All right, let's break that line up just a little bit. See, you can do a lot of things before that paint dries. And even if it starts to dry, let's put a little bit right here. If it starts to dry, just put a little bit of moisture in it and move it around. We're going to do one right here. All you're doing is adding a little bit of tint color without losing your other colors you've already got on there. Because see, when I take that turquoise watered down over that orange and brown, you still see the orange and brown. Just makes the painting a little bit more interesting, I think. We're going to add a little bit right here and then call it done. All right, I think that'll do it. Now let's get started on that center. We're going to use that same dark brown that we were using for the veins. No, excuse me, for the base of those petals. And we're going to fill in using a scruffy brush just to kind of complete that circle again. So I'm using this, I think it's a number 2 or number 3 round messed up brush. You can see the bristles are not that big. It was an excellent brush at one time. You just never throw away those brushes, guys. They always come in handy for something. All right. Now taking that dark brown, it's a little bit on the dry side, but it won't hurt anything because I'm not blending. And all I'm going to do is dance that around where it barely grabs the base of those petals, and it's still, and I'm dancing it, I'm pouncing, so you don't get a perfect line. It's all kind of crunchy looking. All the way around. Once you get through, you can kind of look at it at a distance and see if you need to straighten up your circle a little. But you see how it's grabbing the base of the petals, but it's not looking like a perfect line. This brush is awesome when it comes to a screwed up brush. It comes in handy in giving you a technique like that. And we could probably straighten that up over here a little bit. Now do the center. Just bounce it around. Starting to come together. All right. Now, there are so many centers to a sunflower. I've seen them painted where you can practically see the seeds in there, which is just awesome. But when you're looking at a sunflower, I should have cut one and brought one in here. When you're looking at a sunflower, you really don't see those seeds yet. There's tiny, tiny little flowers, itty bitty little flowers all over the head of that sunflower. For time's sake, we're going to make a short and sweet one. Just using the dark brown, which this is drying now, and that's okay, we can go right on top of it. I'm going to use a little bit, not cleaning my brush, I'm grabbing a tad bit of that yellow white, and I'm going to go a little bit like a moon, not all the way to the edge. And then dab it in the center where you got still a little bit of color. Let's say that's a C. Wipe my brush off. I'm going to straighten that edge a little bit. Doesn't have to be perfect. So if you do a little bit of a C with a small scruffy brush, and I like that center being like it is. I don't go all the way around. You don't want to close that C up. Just gives it a little something. We're going to let that dry, And then we're going to add a little bit more highlight to it, and then we will be done with that part. We're going to move on to the stem. We might come back and add a little bit more white streaks to the petals to make them pop a little bit more. But that center needs to dry for a moment. All right, that center is pretty well dry. Grabbing that scruffy brush again, dampen it, wipe it off. Just want to make sure the bristles are damp. No water on the silver part. I'm going to look that name up. All right, I'm going to highlight just a little bit because I'm thinking the sun is coming in this direction. So I'm just going to highlight a little bit for the center, grabbing the white and yellow. And we're just going to touch right about on the edge. Just to give it a little something. Now there are so many, like I said, so many centers that I've seen painted that are just gorgeous. And if you want to take the time to work a center up like that, feel free because they are very, very pretty. Now, closing that C, and I didn't want to do that, so I'm wiping my brush off and just going to move that somewhat. Now grabbing a little bit of pure white, and I can touch just about, I'd say from 9 o'clock to 11 o'clock. Just a little bit of the pure white. You can see how that makes it pop. You can make it pop even more if you, this is not a have to or anything obviously, grab just a tad bit of black paint. We're going to mix it with that dark brown that we used for the center just to make that brown even stronger. Let me show you what will happen here. So adding to the dark brown that's on our palette, a tad bit of black with a little bit of water. Grab it on your scruffy brush, and you can just dance it around a little bit in that center. It just makes it look a little bit deeper. All I'm doing is rinsing my brush off and tapping on it just to see where I would be happy with this in that section. There we go. Okay, we can call that done, the center part. You can add a little bit more of the turquoise if you want to your petals to make them pop a little bit more. If you wanted to grab a little bit of the white, add a little bit more of a highlight at the very tip. Same concept. Wipe your brush down and then just barely stroke it down. We're thinking the sun's coming in from this direction, so I'm going to add a little bit more white to this one here, just at the tip. Wipe my brush off, and then just stroke it down slightly. Let's add a little bit more white to that one as well. That one's kind of disappearing. Wiping my brush off and just tapping, stroking it down slightly. Okay. Now, let's get to the stem. You want to mix up a green, which I've already done. Oh, my white is running into my green. I did 3 spots of green, and I mixed white with my green, my regular green that I used. You can use any green. Medium shade would work. Then I mixed the dark brown that we used for the background, where I mixed it with yellow and white. I just used the straight brown and mixed it with the green to make it a dark green. And then of course I have this section here with the regular green, and I'm sorry, everything I moved it around the palette too much, and it's kind of bleeding into each other, but it'll still work. All right. Now we've done detail on a leaf. I think y'all seen that video. This stem and leaf is not going to be as great of a detail. It's pretty basic, but when you are, I better not do that. We'll do it this way. When you're working on a stem that's underneath the bloom, that's definitely going to be dark. And then this area here is like a medium green, and then down here will be probably dark again. So that is what, I'm going to take that dark green. I'm going to, using my number 5, see, this is when a point comes in handy on your brush, because you can point right up into that crevice and then just bring it down. Trying to catch that brown. Okay, without cleaning my brush, I'm going to go into the light green. Fill in the outline. And instead of pouncing these two together, I'm just going to wipe my brush off. And all I'm going to do is just stroke those 2 colors together, just so they complement each other. Grab that light green again, keep going down. Wipe your brush off. And all we're going to do is just little small strokes. Dark green at the very base. Only reason I'm doing this, I'm just imagining that the sunflower is growing out of a tall patch of grass. So there's a little bit of a shadow on it. Wipe your brush off. Take the light to the dark. Rinse and wipe your brush off. My light is drying, so I'm going to add a little bit more light up here. Rinse your brush and dry. And go on down to the dark green color. All I'm doing is straightening up the edge a little bit. That shadow up on that stem is coming down a little bit too far for me. So I'm going to take the light green and go over the dark area just a little bit more. Again, I'm just using strokes, little short strokes. That's why a good paintbrush comes in handy. You have a lot more control with a paintbrush that has a point on it. All I'm doing is adding a little bit more of that dark green up there. Wipe my brush off. And just Little small strokes all the way down. We want a little bit of a discoloration. That's when good old spit comes in handy. Yeah, it's getting out of line there a little bit. That was the light. This is the dark. My paint is drying pretty quick. So all I'm doing is moving that light back into the dark again. This is all it is playing, guys. You're just playing with color, slow and easy, till you're happy with it. All right, grab a little bit of pure white because the sun's coming in from this direction. I'm gonna add just pure white to that section right there. And before it dries, rinse your brush, dry it off, and just barely tap it. Just gives it a little something. Okay, same concept with this green leaf is dark at the base, and I'm letting that leaf start in that stem, not just on the edge of it. You're going to paint, and I've got a ridge on there, so I'm going to move that ridge into the painted part of the leaf and get rid of it. Now straighten that line up a little. We've got dark green going on there. We want regular green next. This is when you want your scruffy brush damp, wipe off, make sure no water is dripping on it, and you can pounce that regular green into that dark green. I think I want a little bit more regular green on there. This is just personal preference, guys. It's what looks good to you. All right, going into the light green. Let's finish filling it all in. All I'm trying to do is get the edges, fill it all in. And by this point, because of the weather and the fans, the regular green right here has already started to dry. So what I'm gonna do is rinse my brush, grab the regular green, and just put a little bit back there again. Take the light, pounce your brush on it, get your brush full of that light, and take it down to the dark. It's just a dance between the colors. It's not moving very well, so I'm gonna dampen my brush a little bit. Get a little bit more of that light color. Dance it down. Again, we want kind of that cloudy look where it looks like there's clouds there. That way you get a more dimensional type leaf. Can you see how it's kind of like cloudy and green? I like that. Okay. Rinsing off my brushes that I'm not going to be using for the next few minutes. Drying them off. grab your liner brush and a sip of coffee. Wet the liner brush, wipe it off. And if you will, take your stir brush and add a lot of that white with the light green that you made. We definitely need to see a little bit of a difference if we're gonna put a vein on this leaf, and we definitely need it wet. When you're doing any kind of line work at all, vein work, vines, you need it pretty wet. If you have it so wet that it doesn't show up as good on your project, then just let it dry for a minute and then go back over again with that same wet down paint, and it will layer it and then make it even darker. All right, grabbing, again, it's a thin brush. We're gonna grab right into that light green, getting it full of paint, and then I'm gonna twirl it off. I laugh because I can know my students that I used to teach, they would tell me, Beth, I hear your voice at night. I hear you say dancing. I hear you say twirling. I'm like, I don't want to know that. All right. Side moment. Squirrel. All right, we're going to start at the base of that stem and work our way all the way up. Again, we're going to do a slight curve because the leaf is curving, so we want the vein to curve. This just takes practice, guys. And if you hold your breath, your hand doesn't shake near as much. Well, it works for me. Now, obviously, we don't need this vein to be so dark, light down here in the dark part of the leaf. So all I did was rinse my brush off a little bit. Now I'm kind of playing with it. We're going to take that dark green, add a whole lot of water to it because it is really drying and getting tacky. And we're going to do the shadow part of the vein. Nice and wet and dark. You're not going to see this dark vein or this shadow of the vein very well down here in the dark, but you will see it as it gets into the lighter area. All I'm doing is going right beside that light vein. Back into our light green that we used. Fill your brush full of paint and then twirl it off. We'll do those side veins. Again, we're curving these veins. They're not perfectly straight. Load your brush again, twirl it off with the light green. Do the opposite side. Using that dark green, watered down. Wipe your brush. Make sure no water's on it. We're going to do some of these side veins with a little bit of a shadow. And my dog wants in. He's only been out there for like 5 minutes, or however minute the time that I've been on here again. All right, we got our leaf. We can even use that dark. Do a little something something on the edge of this stem, just to give it a little extra something. As if a bug's been crawling down it. where it's had a little bit of damage from the wind or rain or something. It kind of breaks up the monotony of just a plain old stem. You can do the same thing with the leaf. Let's see if any of this is still, no. Oh, good. The background color, you can do like a bug bite. Using that background color, you can come in here and just do a spot. And what happens is, you give your eyes a minute. Looks like something has been chomping on that leaf and took out some. And I'll do a couple more little spots because they never just do one. Just barely tapping it. I'll go back with a little bit of a highlight and we can call that leaf done. Next, I need to show you how to put some wheat in. This is a unique little technique and it's so simple. I say that. For me, it's simple, but it might take a little bit of practice for you, but once you get it down, you'll enjoy doing this technique. You can do it for flowers as well, some certain flowers. Let me go let the dog in. I'll be back in a moment.